Hey folks, I am so happy to welcome today the queen of anti-trafficking, the badass queen of survivors, Kristin Vaughn herself. So before I introduce you a little bit, and you know what, and myself a little bit as well, for a change, would you want to say a few words, Kristin?
Yeah, I need to say that I need to turn my phone off because my phone just started also producing you. No, I'm super excited to be here, and I just want to apologize ahead of time for my voice. Anybody that knows me knows I talk a lot, and for the last 24 hours, I've completely shut my voice down so that I could be here for this. So I'm recovering. I'm doped up on some Dayquil and some Nyquil and some Tomorrowquil, but we're good. We're gonna get through this. It's gonna be great.
You're going to do absolutely amazing, and we have already people in the audience. Hey, Gregory, nice to have you here. Jane, of course, you would show up. Please scratch our beloved Theodore for us. So we're getting just started. Okay, before we go, Brenna as well just joined. Thank you, Brenna. So Gregory, Jane, and Brenna, you are our
Oh,
top
Brenna's
three.
here. Hey, Brenna.
So yeah, see, Brenna just said
That's
hi.
one of my really good friends. That's
Oh,
another amazing survivor leader.
awesome. And Maria Elena just joined, a very dear friend of mine. Okay, I won't be disturbed by you in the audience. I love you, but please let me introduce properly, kind of properly, Kristin, because she absolutely deserves that. So we met actually thanks to Jane, that is right now in the audience, and through the Hounds of Business from Micah Shabrana. You're not officially a hound, Kristin, but I feel you're a honorary hound. You hang out with so many hounds already. I feel you're part of the pack somewhat. And yeah, let's see about that. I would love for you to join if it makes sense for you at some point, but no pressure. Anyway, so you are in amongst many other things, you're an anti-trafficking keynote speaker, writer, teacher, advisor, advocate. You are extremely heavy on that topic, which is quite heavy, but this is a very, very serious investment and commitment and intention of yours to be like, this has to stop. We have to help those mostly poor women and a few poor men that are suffering from human trafficking, and you are doing an absolutely stellar job at that. Yeah, I would love to go a little bit deeper into that. And you also have something extremely powerful to me, like very, very important in the mix. You have a very strong anti-victim mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like you don't talk about human trafficking victims, human trafficking survivors. You reframed your own victim mindset, and you help others reframe their victim mindset. But because as long as we feel like victims, we don't go very far. Like it's a very, very nasty rabbit hole. And okay, we are talking about some quite heavy stuff, but you know what? Kristin is also a very positive and happy and beaming person, and you're a fellow Monty Python fan. I discovered that yesterday. So yeah, that's the thing. You've been through hell and back and hell again and back again, and still you're thriving and smiling and just spreading so much love and care and positivity around you that is, to me, it doesn't add up. And I believe for many people, it doesn't make sense. So I would love for some people to understand, and maybe people that have been through hell or are still in hell, whatever it could feel like for them, might realize, hey, you know what, guys? That super cliche light at the end of the tunnel, it actually exists. You can build that for yourself. like Kristin did, and like so many other people did. So you're a very, very inspiring person, like Jane, like Maria Elena, like so many others. And yeah, like look at that smile, guys. Like look at that smile. It is just engineered. It's just pure goodness. So and we just discussed before the show that you would prefer to have really two-way conversation, having it flow, like not necessarily question answers. And I'm totally with that. And Ollie, our friend Ollie Derricks, just joined.
Is Ollie
Thank you
here?
for
Hey, Ollie.
Yay! Ollie just joined. Thank you so much for carving out the time. And yeah, so please allow me to start with at least one question, and then we will see how it goes. And let's go directly into the belly of the beast. I'd like to know, and more for our audience to know, because I already know that story, but how did you encounter human trafficking? And why is it so important to fight against it for you specifically, and actually for all of us?
Thank you so much, Kevin, for that. So, so when I speak, I kind of try to give like here's a few minutes of what happened to me, and then let's talk about what we're doing now and how we can move on from that. So basically, what happened to me, I was actually in law school. I graduated high school, was in college, went to law school, and I was in a pre-law program. I wasn't in law school. I was in a pre-law program, and I was actually sexually assaulted at a college. There were a few friends of mine, and we all got actually dosed. We found out later it was GHB, and I ended up getting pregnant. And because I was 17, I was in the situation that I was in. I was terrified. I was away from home. I had an abortion. Do I regret that to this day? Yes. Have I made peace with that? Also, yes. But because of that, after I had the abortion, it was I stopped going to class. I stopped taking a shower. I stopped eating. And I think eventually the college actually called my parents and were like, you have to come get her. Like, she's not doing okay. So, and I started, I'd had a substance use problem. I'd gotten off of substances. I'd gotten off of substances. I had gone back into them during this time. And so my parents came and got me. They took me to a treatment center in a city that I was in that was near us. And I got clean, and I was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do great. I'm going to be on my own. But I was unmedicated ADHD, unmedicated bipolar, unmedicated depression, or misdiagnosed, all of those things also. And I just tried to I don't know if you've ever heard the term like dry drunk, how people will stop drinking and they'll stop doing drugs or whatever, but they don't have any healing. And they're just sort of like still doing the same things, but you're still really messed up. So I was just like, I got a really good job. I got a really nice house, and I got a really good job at this hotel working as a chef. And I was like, walk my way to work. And these guys would always like drive by me, and they would like holler at me and be like, hey, and I was like, I'm not talking to them. I'm going to work. And, I had my chef jacket on and my chef pants, and I'm very professional. And then these girls started talking to me, and like they would ask to bum a cigarette, or they would ask to or like I would walk into a store to buy cigarettes or to buy a drink or whatever at this little corner store, and they started like paying for stuff for me. They started when I would get off the bus, they were there. When and then we started hanging out again. Like I started getting high again. I started getting high again, smoking weed, doing pills, whatever with them. And it just like progressed from there. Come to find out later, those girls were paid to help groom me by those same guys that I refused to talk to. So women were paid to help groom me. By the time that I realized the situation that I was in, it was too late, and I couldn't get out. And so that's how I ended up being trafficked. And we did an interesting thing. Excuse me. we did an interesting thing last week. There are these things called ACE scores, and it's adverse childhood experiences scores. And basically it's like if you've had a parent that harmed you, if you had a parent that had a mental health disorder, if you had a parent, anyways, it's 0 out of 10. And most people that have been trafficked have like a 2 to 3 to 4, 5, 10 up ACE score. I scored a 0 out of probably 30 people that I was with. I had no adverse childhood experiences. I had a lovely childhood. My parents are amazing. I went through nothing bad in my childhood. Like we had our little like normal ups and downs that parents have, with children and me being rebellious and whatnot. But I had none of those things. But I think it's important to note that. And I always, for a really long time, felt like I didn't even have a story. But I feel like it's important to note that even though I have 0 ACE scores, that I had 0 adverse childhood experiences, I still ended up in the same place. Trafficking does not discriminate. You can be educated, privileged, well off, upper middle class, upper class, and you can still get trafficked. So I think that's very, very important. That's like the number one thing that I like to highlight. That I think that a lot of people think that it's just a certain ethnicity or just a certain population or just a certain community or a certain country. Like, no, this is happening. Yes, Brenna, absolutely. If you experience a school shooting, if you go through trauma, if you go through PTSD, anything that yes, thank you, Jane. Trafficking does not discriminate. Addiction does not discriminate. These are things that mental health, like it does not matter. Like anybody can be subjected to this. So yeah, thank you guys for saying that. But that's how I experienced it. And so like the short and the long of it is I had a family, and this is why this is so important to me. I had a family that constantly. So the last 8 months of my trafficking, I was held in a basement, with 3 other girls, to the point to where I used to have chalk, and I would draw windows on the basement doors on the basement walls and sunshine. And we would say we weren't allowed out. My dad found out where I was, and my dad and my family came and to the door, beat on the door. And we're like, if we want Kristin right now, and we want Kristin right now. And they knew that if the dope boys, traffickers, whatever you want to call them, knew that if they did not let me out, that my dad was going to bring holy hell up on that house. And so they were like, Kristin, yo, you got to go. And they made me leave. And I think they actually took me out of there kicking and screaming because of the other girls that were there. I did not want them to leave. That house has since now been razed to the ground. The city just completely they tore it down, burned it down, whatever. The house no longer exists because it was such a den of inequity. It was such so much nefarious activity that went on there. It doesn't even exist. That was a gift. Only 1 to 4% of trafficking victims get out. So for me to get out, that was a gift. And I don't know if you're listening, if you believe in the universe, or if you believe in God, or if you're a person of faith, whatever. But for me, that was a gift from God. And with that gift comes a responsibility. And that responsibility for me is to make sure that no one else ever goes through this again. So I have worked since 2008 to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else. And that's why I fight. And that's why, and I know, and I'll say this, and I'm not saying this to like make anybody feel bad, but, you said something about my smile earlier. So I had a lot of problems with my teeth, but also during my trafficking, a lot of those teeth were beaten out of me. So these are all implants. So I'm glad that you guys love my smile. I love to smile. I love to be happy and I love to be positive. And that's why I've really resonated with people like you and Ollie and Mike and Jackie and Jane. Like we went through these horrible things, But like, how can we turn that pain into purpose? How can we make that terrible thing that we went through into a beautiful thing, and like find healing in that, and find empower in that? How can we do that? And not only that, how can we empower other people to do that? And I love what you said about like the victimhood mentality. So victimhood serves no one. A lot of organizations prop up survivors of whatever. Okay, let me back up. We're all survivors of something. All of us have survived something. We have all survived childhood trauma, adult trauma. We've all survived something. So I really, I've had, people do podcasts. They're like, oh, well, I just went through cancer. I never went through what you went through. Oh my gosh, that's a terrible thing you went through. Like we're all survivors of something. So like as the survivorship world that we can all be a part of. And like, I don't even think it's like, oh, my trauma is worse than your trauma. Like we're all survivors. And I think that that's really important to highlight. And so the victimhood mentality is like, there are people that have, and I do not blame them at all, but there are people who different organizations have helped them kind of become professional victims, who have helped them become like this is my truth. This is what I stand in. I'm a victim, and I was a victim of this, and I was a victim of that. Okay, sis, that's fine. Like if that's what you want to be, that's fine. However, you can move past that. You can move past being a victim. What was I a victim of everything I went through? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do I see myself as a victim? Not at all. The only disparagement there is it's much easier for me to advocate for other people sometimes than it is for me to, and Jane will attest to this. It's much easier for me to advocate for other people. But sometimes I have a hard time advocating for myself. But, we can be victims, but we do not have to live in that. We do not have to own that. Were we victimized at one point? Yes. But we survived that. We have come out of that. We are empowered because of that. And that is what I love to support. And that is what I love to try to like bring to the table. So.
Wow, that is so powerful. So I've seen the comments booming because that's Evie, and still this is so powerful. The way you share it, this is so very powerful. So before I comment quickly, I would like to, and I took notes because there was so much. So I'd like to welcome warmly. So Noni, Mike, so LinkedIn user. I'm not sure. Maybe it's Becky or Silas or both, or maybe Michelle. Michelle likes is often in the audience with you. Actually, Kristin, I know both of you are big fans of my show, and I deeply appreciate that. And also, D Grant himself was able to come up to come. So thank you so much, D.
So I'm so glad he's here.
And Mike Ashabrana, the king of hounds of business himself, the big dog himself, he's here. So thank you so very much to all of you. And yeah, so what you mentioned, like, how can you imagine that, guys? Only 1 to 4% of victims at that time, still victims, right? They're still suffering from that, of human trafficking, escape. And then for the very little number, like 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 25, that are able to get out of it. Now imagine how many of them still are stuck into victim mindset, very understandably. Like, duh, of course, like it's heavy. So all those people, and mostly women, let's be honest, they absolutely need our help and support and love and care. And also help to reframe their victim mindset into survivor mindset. I feel it's so very important. I know Jane and you, Kristin, you do such a wonderful job with that. So yeah, I feel it's so very important to address that, because yeah, that could happen to anyone. As you mentioned, it's not only something that would happen in countries, low developed countries. I hate that. I used to study sociology, right? And there's kind of colonialist take on it, right? The Westerners, the good white people bringing civilization to all those people, and that is, oh, come on, guys, this is so wrong on so many other levels. But you know what? Human trafficking, very first, is not about those kind of countries or communities. It could happen anywhere in the US, in Canada, in France.
Literally, yeah, Kevin, it's literally every single person that is hearing us right now. It is literally happening within 10 to 15 miles of your house.
Wow.
Every single person that is hearing me right now, 10 to 15 miles of your house. That is the new statistic or whatever. Every neighborhood, every country, every state. Yeah. And it's not just sex trafficking. It's labor trafficking as well. Like, we need to be cognizant of that as well. Like, you might see, and I don't mean to stereotype anyone, but for example, in America, this spring you're going to see a bunch of Filipinos or Puerto Ricans or Guatemalans working on your neighbor's yard. I guarantee you that they're not getting paid livable wages. That's labor trafficking.
Wow. And yeah, it gives a totally different ring to it.
Yeah.
That's wild. And actually, I feel like it has to be serious. It has to be like, guys, this is a wake up call. This is real. This is big. This is serious. This could happen to anyone. That could happen to your sister, to your daughter, to your grandma, to anyone, or to male as well.
Imagine being in law school and being a daddy's girl, and your dad is your best friend, and you having to call your dad and be like, "Hey, I got arrested for prostitution, but I'm in a place that I don't want to be at." Imagine that. That was the worst, hardest thing that I've ever had to do in my life. And so we've done a lot of healing and a lot of therapy within my family for them to understand like what that was. But my dad is also the one that rescued me. And I don't use the word rescue lightly. I do think that, I hate these organizations that say voice for the voiceless, hope for the hopeless, defending the defenseless. I don't think that's true. And I don't like to use the word rescue, but I very, very much was rescued by my dad and my cousin, who came and got me out. So, that was like, I'm going to cry. Like, that was the toughest thing that I've ever had to go through in my life, was just to be able to tell, my dad, like, what I went through. And I'm getting ready to be the very first person in Virginia to have their charges vacated, which I teach and I present on that on vacatures. So there's a couple of different ways. Like, once you get charges, you could have them dismissed, which is you can have them like, where it's sort of like, oh, you've not gotten in trouble in so many days or so many years, we're gonna just wipe this from your record. Vacatur comes with basically an apology from the court saying you never should have been convicted of those crimes to begin with. I mean, I spent time in jail for that while I was actively telling law enforcement, hey, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And and this was in 2005. So in 2005, trafficking wasn't a word. It was, you were a prostitute. It wasn't a word. So we're actively working on policy and legislation, and anybody here that's engaged in and before we wrap up out in a few minutes, like later, Kevin, I've got a list of people that I want to like just give you guys like hey, if you want more information, if you want to follow, like I'm prepared. I have a list. And so, but there are things that like, there are actionable things that people in the community, people as individuals can do to be able to, and to fight this. And so, and then the other thing too, is I want to make sure that like, I 100% believe that I got into all of this and to go back to Kevin's like series is Happy Misfits. I'm very neurodivergent. I'm very ADHD. I'm very I'm bipolar. Happily now I'm a happy misfit because I'm medicated, so I'm fine. But it took years for that to even be diagnosed correctly. And I live in a very rural area where mental health services are not great. And it took years and years of like different cocktails and different medications and different therapies for me to be able to even find like what it was that I needed to even be able to be okay. And so, one of the things, the reasons I'm so excited about, doing this with you, Kevin, is it's not just about like, oh, let me just talk about my trafficking situation, but it's like, let me talk about the thing that I feel like got me into that trafficking situation. That let me talk about like the disparagements or the barriers that created that situation. If I had been diagnosed correctly as a 10, 11, 12-year-old and I had been medicated correctly, this could have gone a whole different way. But I wasn't, and I didn't. And and so I think that we need to be very cognizant of the fact that like neurodivergencies are, I think it's my superpower. I see a lot of people on this call that know me very well, and they know like how much that I get done. I 1000% could not get those things done if I was not ADHD. I'm proud of being ADHD. Like I'm happy, but because I'm medicated. Was I proud 10 years ago? Was I proud 20 years ago? No. Like I was not okay. But I'm medicated, and I can turn that neurodivergent, I can turn that ADHD into like, okay, these are the limitations that I have. These are the weaknesses that I have. But these are the things that I'm really, really good at. Let's build upon that, and let's use those things and turn them into my superpower.
Yeah, so you know that I'm all about that. My homie D here is all about superpowers as well, superhero lingo and all of that stuff. So I love that. So I help my clients to see that, to reframe their apparent weaknesses into actually the source of their superpowers. But not everyone is able to do that by themselves, right? It's why I help them actually.
Community. So 1,000% a community. Like I would not be able to do anything that I could do without the community that I have around me. Whether it be people like you, Ollie, Jane, Brenna, Mike, all these people that I have around me, like my community. So when I first exited trafficking, I went to a place called Thistle Farms. It's in Nashville, and they surrounded me with like this love and like 30 other girls who've been through all this. And it was, if it were not for that community, I would still be where I was. Community is my number one thing. Yeah.
And that is so important. I love that you mentioned that. And that's one of the reasons why we love Micah Shabrana so much. And right? And the way that he built that absolutely amazing community of the hounds of business, and really like a giant shout out to you, Mike. And basically, you're the reason why this show exists in the first place, and that I have so many amazing guests. Like 80% of my guests are from the hounds, or maybe 70, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I would like to just pause a second to welcome the newcomers in the comments. So we have Isabel, Nancy, Jason, Kevin, and I know you're even more, but not commenting, and there is nothing wrong with that. I've seen like at some point we were almost 50. So thank you so much for joining and listening to this very important conversation. And you don't have to comment. Don't worry. Just if you don't comment, we can't know you are here right now. And we're exactly in the middle of the show, right? It's a 1 hour show. And I'd like to shift gears. So we've studied that belly of the beast, that is a very smelly and nasty beast, right? Human trafficking, we don't want that. We want that to stop, obviously. But still, we have to address that this is serious, this is nasty, you don't want that, and many people suffer from that. Now, what I'm very interested in is how can we get out of it, and not physically, as you mentioned, like it's not easy to get people out of human trafficking, but once they're out, how they can get out of kind of bullying themselves, like feeling like a victim. And I know you're extremely good at that, and dealing with PTSD, because that kind of experience, it's gigantic trauma, an intense trauma and a repetitive trauma. And like for the people that don't know about trauma, basically there are two big kinds of traumas. The big T traumas, the like boom, giant trauma in your face, like an accident, and the tiny traumas with a small t, the one that are not so big, but they are repetitive. They are like being bullied just a little bit, but every single day, 15 times a day, and that adds up over time. And we when you have both of them, the big traumas and the tiny traumas at once, that's a very, very bad combo.
Yeah.
So it creates a lot of stuff like PTSD, and we want to get out of it. And you are a queen of that. Like you are so positive now. You're so thriving now. This is extremely important. And yes, you mentioned medication, but I know there's not only medication, and you mentioned also community. But I would love to explore what helps you deal with your PTSD. But before that, we have questions from the audience. So I believe it was Becky that asked, I will highlight it. What advice do you have for mothers of young adult daughters who involve themselves in risky behavior? That's a tricky one.
So I would 100% defer that question to, if you want to friend her on LinkedIn, her name is Linda, Lynda Harlos. She is a mother of a trafficking victim, and she has an entire training thing, and it's free. She has an entire training around, and she's written books and everything. And she's like, I would call her my second mama. She 100%, like I can't speak on that because I'm not a mom. But I can speak on what like her experience and my mom's experience were literally exactly the same. And so like if you want to connect with her, that would be, and I'm happy to make an email introduction or whatever if you want to email me. If anybody wants to email me, it's just Kristin with 2 I's at mvptaskforce.org. I'm happy to make that email introduction, and but you can also just follow her on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'll just defer that question to Linda. Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. And Linda is amazing. You will love to connect. So thank you for that.
Linda's great.
Yeah, she's like part of your amazing
like
community.
Everybody's mom.
So yeah, I don't know her that much yet, at least to be honest. But the few contacts we had, like it was like, yeah, I want to carve out the time to know you better. She's amazing. So just a quick shout out to Sindal and Martha that just joined. We're like the chat is booming, guys. I have a hard time keeping up.
I can't see any of it, so please read them to me. This is exciting. Can I see them?
Are they on we have another question from our special Jane. What is the best advice you have received?
Probably from Jane. The best advice that I've ever received has probably been from Jane.
Nice. Okay. It's a full loop.
To not put up with the bullshit, and to recognize myself as the expert that I am, and that I'm a professional, and that I'm not just a survivor, and that is not my identity, and that I can have a real job as a professional, which I now have, all pretty much thanks to Jane encouraging me that. So yeah, Jane, you just answer your own question, sis.
I love it. Right back at you. That's powerful. So, guys, if any of you have questions, so Kristin, as you understand, she's very So sorry, go ahead. Go ahead,
No,
please.
I was just saying, I'm happy to answer any questions. I can't see them. You can read them to me, but like any questions, any Q&A, like I'm here for it. Like, let's do it. Like, whatever you guys want to know, let's talk.
Yeah, and just so you know, if for any reason you can't come up with a question right now, or because of time I can't highlight your question in time, just reach out to Kristin.
Yep,
She's
I'm very
so
accessible.
kind and helpful, and she will lovingly point you in the right direction if she doesn't know. So yeah, so that is covered. And actually, I see a question from Jason. So let's explore that one. I'm highlighting it. So are there national organizations that work with human trafficking individuals to help them with resources and well-being checks?
Because that's two parts. So that's going to be there are national organizations. So there's like Survivor Line, and again, if you want to feel, I can run through a whole lot right now. If you want to connect with me via email, via LinkedIn messaging, whatever, I can give you all these and a link. So there's going to be National Survivor Network, Survivor Alliance, Polaris, obviously, National Human Trafficking Hotline, the Coalition Against Human Trafficking, Coalition Against Slavery and Trafficking. There are organizations that provide some services. Well-being checks is a little harder. So there's a huge disparagement between, like, there are a lot of like 18 to 24 month programs to help people. Like, you get out, here's a program, you get clean, if that's an issue, because not all trafficking situations involve substance use. Many do. So a lot of like substance abuse and trafficking programs are kind of looped in together, but some are not. But then after that, it's like, like I'm 22 years removed from trafficking, but I still don't know how I'm going to pay my electric bill some days. And that's something I'm working currently on with an organization. We're building out a program to create a, okay, I guess I'm going to just tell about this now. So I've created a program to train. I don't know how many of you guys know about OSINT, which is open software information technology. And it's sort of how, like, and those of you that know me, Jane, Linda, Mike, Kevin, Ollie, you guys know some of the, Kenneth, Gregory, you guys, Martha, you guys know some of the things I've been working on, where we're finding girls. We have the solutions. We have these systems that we can use we have solutions. We're finding victims. I want to create a program and fund a program that trains like a legion of survivors to go out to be like the survivor hunters, to go out to find to get these traffickers and to find these girls and to get these victims, and to like be there for that. So I recently been in talks with Alisa Mule at Moms in Security Global. And I'm sorry, that's on my list of people that I'm going to like plug at the end. We're trying to build out a program to be able to like train survivors that provides economic stability, future financial security, and professional development and education and training. So basically what happened is like an attorney general's office. I'm sorry, I'm sick. I'm drinking Israel like crazy. An attorney general's office called me December the 6th and was like, hey, we are having trouble finding a girl. Can you help us find a girl? Law enforcement is not helping. And I was like, they were like, we know you know people. So I like got my little ad hoc team together. Well, we found 4 girls since then. And it is not hard. I mean, the tools that we're using are not hard, but there are things that law enforcement can't, I'm going to say this, or won't do, because they see them as runaways, or they've all been black and brown girls. They've not been blonde hair, blue eyed white girls. They've been black and brown girls, and they're like, oh, they're 15, they're 16, they're runaways. But then their family is steady telling us they're not runaways. out of character for them. And we found 3 out. We found 3 out of 6 so far. So I'm trying to develop a program to where we can train other survivors like myself. I mean, I need the training too. Like I'm like ish on this. Like I'm kind of okay on it. I've learned a lot because I'm like an old school computer programmer. But like we have the resources, or I'm trying to get the resources to where we can provide survivors with a paid internship, paid training opportunity to learn these things, because who cares more about us than us?
Yeah, absolutely. I deeply, it deeply resonates with me because I see myself as a survivor. I never been human trafficked, thankfully, right? But I survived bullying. And I suffered from 8 long years of bullying from my friends. So it totally messed me up. So it's different. And exactly as you said, I could feel, and I felt like that back in the days. I could have felt your pain is bigger than mine. Who am I to say I've been a victim back then and I suffered and I'm a survivor? Back then, I could have felt that way, like to diminish myself and to just discriminate myself in a way and just make myself even more a victim. And I'm like, hey, you know what? No, I'm a survivor as well. It's not the same pain. It's not the same intensity maybe, but actually doesn't like I'm sure you know that it was one of the most inspiring changes in hospitals when they started to ask the patients to rate their level of pain themselves from 1 to 10. They didn't say because you have cancer, you should be somewhere between 8 and 10. And because you have a cold, you should be 1 or 2. You're like, you might be dealing very poorly with your cold right now, and you might feel like 8, even though it's a cold. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's not what happens, it's how you feel. Exactly.
It's your perspective. Like you may not have my level of 10 pain, but that's my level of 10 pain, you know? Yeah.
You like everybody knows Lady Gaga, I assume, and maybe not so many people know that she's suffering from excruciating pain almost on a daily basis. She has this very bad physical illness. And actually, you know what? She's in pain all the time. And nevertheless, she's a giant rock star. She's able to channel her pain. Like I would suffer from that. Probably I would have ended myself already, her ability to deal with that kind of level of pain is off the charts. So we are all different. That's what makes it beautiful. So we better not judge other people's pain, and we better not judge our own pain. Like, pain is pain, and
right,
hurt
like
is
trauma
hurt.
is trauma, exploitation is exploitation, pain is
Absolutely.
pain. I mean, we all went through something that broke our fucking hearts. It broke our hearts. It broke our bodies. And you know what? We just spend every single day putting each other back together again. And I said this, and D. Grant corrected me. He was like, "You are not broken, but I will still say this. I've been broken. Yes, I'm putting myself back together again. Thank you, D. Grant. But there are, and I think that is a responsibility that we have. Like from one broken person to another broken person. Like I may have been through trafficking. You may have been through child abuse. You may have been through bullying. You may have been through just being like low self-esteem. Like trauma is trauma is trauma. Whatever is traumatic to you it doesn't matter. Like, and this is the thing, like organizations like to elevate particular traumas or particular bad experiences. But like my trauma, for me, it could be 100% equal to the trauma that you went through. It's trauma. It's trauma. It's trauma. It's trauma. It's exploitation. It's heartbreak. It's brokenness. But at the end of the day, what are we going to do to move past that. Like that's what happened to us. That's not who we are. And that is the difference that made in my life was I had an organization come along the side of me that was like, you know what, Kristin, they were like, they didn't say, what did you do? They said, what happened to you? And that is what happened to me. And that is the difference. So it doesn't matter what anybody's trauma is, like human trafficking, substance abuse, child molestation, CSAM, bullying, low self-esteem, mental health, like just having a shit brother, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things that can happen, but it's all relative. It's all, my relevant trauma is your relevant trauma. It's all trauma. Thank you, Ollie, for that. We're all living a bad dream before we are awakening. Thank you, Ollie. He's always so good with the words.
I love that. And another thing, we don't want it to become an excuse to
right.
you know that very famous line, hurt people, right? Because we've been hurt, we don't make it an excuse, so we get to hurt others. And I love that Mike is often adding the heal people, and this is very, very powerful. So just sorry, go ahead.
When I speak, I'm sorry, I get so excited, and I'm ADHD.
No worries. You're the star. Go ahead. Go wild and crazy. I love that.
I'm starting to see like some of the comments come through, so I don't know like how long they've been on there. So thank you, Sindel, for that. But I like to talk about like, hey, here's like this really fucked up thing that I went through. But let me tell you about what we're doing now. So can I talk just a little bit about like what we're doing now, what survivors are doing now, and like people that if they're interested in getting in this fight, like who they can follow, who they can link up with, who they can network with. Is that an appropriate time for that?
So sorry, I was just checking the comments right now. I would like to just say hi to Chanda and Charito. We have a question, and basically we have like 10 minutes plus left, so not so much time. I'd like to be extremely focused, because I'd like for people to know, like I would like for you to two things at least. I'd like if you could share at least one practical tip to deal with trauma and PTSD, something very practical that doesn't require medication, something that people could use on the go very easily, very simply, super practical and all of that. I want to highlight, you talked about your program, so I really want people to be able to reach you. So that's important. So you know what? I will post it that. So if you need more, if you want more, if you're curious, reach out to Kristin, especially if you know some people that might need some help. Or if you have, a hunch, like, there's something shady in that neighborhood. Like my daughter's neighbor has been absent for a while. Maybe something is going on. Anything, just reach out to Kristin or to Jane or to Brenna. I don't know. Jane, you didn't ask for it, so I will
Brenna,
just
sure.
leave Jane alone unless she says. Come to me, but at least go to Kristin. She will happily point you in the right direction. And
so first off, I was going to say, like, if you are in a position in America where you're like, oh my gosh, this might be a trafficking situation. I think my daughter or my little cousin is in a situation. First, if you want to reach out to me, let me say this also, if you know a trafficking survivor, or if you are a trafficking survivor, or if you're a victim in a situation right now to where like it's, feel free to reach out to me. My phone is always on. I may not answer immediately, but I will always answer that. And I can direct you to the right spot. I'm not like the know-all, beat-all to end-all, but my friends do call me like the anti-trafficking concierge of America, just because I know everybody, and I've made it a point to have like a really good reputation, and I do really good work for all these organizations that I pretty much know somebody in each state. We're also coming out with an app And because of an NDA, I can't share it all completely with you right now, but I will be sharing it soon. That's going to be helpful. But let me go back. I made some notes. Let me go back, Kevin, to what you said about some practical tips for PTSD. So for PTSD, my PTSD is so bad that a door gets shut, a dog barks, my boyfriend walks into a room, the phone rings, any of that sets me off. It terrifies me. My boyfriend literally has to text me if he's coming into another room, like that I'm not expecting him into. So what I want to say to anyone that is either experiencing PTSD or CPTSD or is in a relationship with someone, talk to that person. Ask them, either say, this is what I need, or say, what do you need? Because this stuff, like, we've been together for almost 6 years. And the first 2 years of it was just me being terrified of him walking into the room. So he literally has to text me when he comes into a room. So please have that conversation. The second thing I will say is, so I'm the director of operations for MVP Task Force. Yes, and Jane, I will. I'm director of operations for MVP Task Force. We're developing a platform. We're doing work in all other countries. Like anybody, like if you have, especially a child case, a minor case of something that's going on, if you could please feel free to reach out to me. And if you're not, and again, it's Kristin 2 Eyes at MVP Task Force. And if you have some and I could also connect you with the Human Trafficking Hotline, which are really, really good friends of mine. And the other thing was, if you see something that you think it's happening immediately, call 911. At worst case scenario, you've called and it turns out to be nothing. But you cannot expect the National Human Trafficking Hotline to respond immediately because they're in DC. They're not in your county or in your state. But if you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I see something's happening, go ahead and do an overabundance of caution and react. You know what? And so what? You may be wrong. It may really just be a grandpa with his grandkid. It may be fine. But it might not be. If you get that feeling and that butterfly and that in your soul, in your chest, grab a license plate, screenshot a license plate, something. I'm not saying follow them. I'm not saying none of that. Call 911. Like, do your due diligence. Just pay attention. Like, I was in the airport. I've been in 6 airports in the last 4 days. And like, I'm just like, my radar is like, just like everywhere. Like, imagine like just me, like in the radar, as a trafficking survivor in the airport. And like, it's like almost like I'm looking for it. I'm not saying do that. Like I'm hyper vigilant on stuff that also goes with the ADHD. But just pay attention to your surroundings and like, what are things that are going on? Like, what are things that you could do? Just pay attention to that kind of stuff. And so, oh, thank you, Renzetti. Oh, hey, can I highlight some people real quick before I know we've got about 7 minutes left. Okay. So I have a list. So I want to say, if you care about human trafficking and you care about how we can stop it and you care about, survivors, there's a question a few minutes ago that says, should we focus more on the ending the demand than supporting survivors? No, I don't agree with that. I believe by supporting survivors, you are 100% supporting the in demand because survivors, there are so many survivors or victims turned survivors that get out of trafficking that are like, hey, what can I do? The people closest to the problem are the people closest to the solution. So while you may be supporting in demand, whether that be through organizations or allies or whatever, if you're not supporting survivors, if you're not supporting survivor voices, you don't know if that organization has a survivor on the board, on the payroll. You don't know. And that's the other thing that I would urge you to do. If you want to support an organization, we know who the organizations are to support and we know who the organizations to not support. I joke, and I'm always like, I want to start like a bad date list for survivors and organizations, but obviously we can't do that. But if you talk to us, Survivor leaders are very accessible, especially on LinkedIn. We're very accessible. Talk to us. Send us a message. We'll talk to you. You're like, hey, I really care about this organization. What do you think they're doing? We'll tell you. Also, you can do a thing called, you can Google their 990s, which is a form that in America that organizations have to file that shows you how much are they spending on their travel costs, how much are they paying their executive directors, how much are they paying for programming, and if the money for the above is more than programming and more than operational costs on the victims, I wouldn't support them. But anyways, I digress. I wanted to say if you care about anti-trafficking, especially in America and Canada, if you want to follow Brenda Wallace, she is doing amazing work in Canada. Like she's just totes amazing. I love her. She's doing really cool work. Also, Kalila Rika, which is doing the Empty Frames Initiative. She works in the foster care system. Kevin Branzetti is with NCPTF Task Force, and he is running that now. And they're doing such really cool work. Teresa Flores with the SOAP Project, which is a really, really cool retreat I just got to go on. Although Samantha Gamble has a thing called Artemis, which is really cool. And of course, and Megan Lundstrom with Polaris, who is amazing, who started the Avery Center and now she's with Polaris. And her and I and Aisha Prakash from MVP are going to be presenting March the 13th for the UN. And I could, Kevin, I can get Kevin to share the link for that. Anybody, it's a free registration. Anybody that wants to connect with me, and that's that's my little list of people that I want to share about.
Yeah, I love that. And I saw a very smart comment. I believe it was from Jane to put all the resources in the comments of the event, which actually, because you guys in the audience have been so amazing, you commented widely. Actually,
can I go back and see all the comments somewhere? I'm hoping I can see all the comments.
It will just be lost in the jungle of comments. So it won't be that helpful, unfortunately. So you still can do that, but probably we'll figure it out. So maybe reposting something from linked to the event with the list of resources, or maybe when I will download the recording on my YouTube channel, that might be an option. So we'll figure it out. But yeah, probably finding the list of resources in the comments might be a challenge.
Yeah, I know. I'll list everything that I just talked about and all the resources. I'll send them. But I know we have like about 3 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah, just guys, if you have questions, just reach out to Kristin. She's amazing. You've seen her smile. She's just all positivity, and she will help the heck out of you. Whether if you need personal help or help for loved ones or strangers or whatever, she's just magical, like so many other people. And actually, I would like to.
Jamie! Hey, Jamie!
Hey, Jamie! Shout out to Jamie as well.
I love Jamie.
And talking about shootouts, so you mentioned community, right? How important it was. So I'd like to once again do a big shout out to the Hounds of Business and Maya Sharana. So many here are from the Hounds or revolving around the Hounds somewhat. This is an amazing, absolutely free and super supporting community. If you're interested, if you'd like to be supported in your growth, especially on LinkedIn, but not just on LinkedIn, and the only thing is you have to be a business owner or an entrepreneur of sorts, or have a kind of project you're working, not just a regular employee. The Hounds of Business are amazing. Just reach out to Mike or me, and we will happily give you more information about it.
Can I put this out there real quick, just while we have the Hounds of Business on here? There are a lot of survivors that have entrepreneurial ideas and have business ideas. And I'm very, very good. And thank you, Stendhal, for that. I'm very good at like 501c3s and nonprofits and stuff like that. I'm not great on like business stuff. So if there is an opportunity for any like hounds that are like would want to do some mentorship with some survivors, we can make that happen to like maybe help them walk them through getting some how to develop their own business, how to build that out, how to branding and marketing and stuff like that. So if there are any opportunities like that would be something that I would be interested in connecting everybody with. Like I'm a bridge builder. Like I'm not great at either of those things, but I can make the connections.
That's a great idea. And actually, with Mike, we discussed about connecting communities, and like it's on its way. There's still a lot to work just for the new version of the hounds, but it's on its way. So it's a brilliant idea. I love that. So yeah, let's see how we can make that happen. And yeah, guys, unfortunately, this is already the end. I know we could go like for 3 more hours easy, but yeah, you know what? We just can't. Very first, because we value your time very much and our time very much. But it was an amazing conversation. I would love for you to finish with Jane's question. What is your proud moment this week?
Actually, my proud moment this week was I had some. I know Ollie and a couple people know about it. I had some travel difficulties this week. I've been traveling for 18 days, and I just got back about 3:00 yesterday morning. And I just got home, and I'm sick, and I'm just proud. And I was like, I'm gonna take my medicine. I'm gonna power through it. And we're gonna get through this because I've been so excited about this for weeks. And so I'm really proud just to even like be here right now.
I'm so happy that you joined despite not being at your top health right now. And yeah, to me, my proud moment this week has been to have you as a guest and to help you spread your very important message that, yeah, we have to be vigilant. This is a real serious thing. And you know what? It's not final. It's not because you experienced human trafficking that your life is over. Like, look at Kristin. Like there are so many
right, like I'm
options.
not healed. You know what I mean? Like there's no like I think I heard this weekend the word healed with an ed is not a word. It's healing. Like I will always be healing.
Absolutely.
And everybody was like, "How did you heal?" And I'm like, "I'm not healed. Like this is trauma and grief is just the gift that keeps on giving." And it could be through a smell, it could be through an image, sound. It could be through anything. We are healing. We are never healed, and it's a constant journey. And we have to be cognizant of that, and we have to make sure that we are aware of that.
Yeah, and you know what? But at the same time, we can enjoy the grace and empowerment of feeling that victory over and over and over again. Today, I did 1% better.
Yeah,
right.
Thank you for holding this space. So, I enjoy every single one of your episodes because you have people that have like, they go through this thing and then they come out of this thing and then now they're doing this really cool thing. And so just thank you for holding this space for us. And thank, people like you and Ollie and Jane and Mike and like everyone that is just so positive in my life, and Brenna and Brenzetti and like everybody that is just so positive. And I could not do this, and Martha and Dr. New and Kenneth and Gregory and Angelica. Like I could not do this work without having you guys to fall back on. Like you guys are my safety net. Like thank you.
Oh, you're so very welcome, and thank you again for doing what you do so beautifully and so inspiringly. And thank you guys in the audience. You were absolutely amazing in the live. If you're watching the replay, I hope you enjoyed it as well as much as we did. So until next week I will have Jason Forehand as a guest. It is going to be amazing. So another fellow hound. So until next week, you enjoy a beautiful fellow hound. Yeah, absolutely.
Feral. I love it.
Yeah, also, yeah, he's quite feral in his own way. So it was fellow, but thanks to my special French accent, it sounds unusual. So yeah, feral and fellow, both.
And I sound like you said feral. I like feral better.
I like feral better. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, let's go for that. I will go for this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys, everybody that's tuned in. And anybody who wants to contact me, please reach out. I'm very accessible. Thank you guys so much. I love all of you.
Yeah, lots of love, guys and fellows, and just enjoy. Bye bye.